Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're taking a look at a trainer who has climbed to some pretty incredible heights in the Open Great League with a very spicy Pokemon, Shadow Mightyena. These battles were submitted to the channel by a member of the community, QueenKaya25, so many thanks for the battle submission. Mightyena is a pure Dark-type Pokemon. For the moveset, it's running Sucker Punch, Poison Fang, and Crunch. And while Mightyena is not considered a meta Pokemon by any means, with strong teammates like Cloudsire and Furret, this trainer is able to make it work. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in game number 1, picking up a pretty okay lead as Cloudsire is staring down Talonflame. Even with running Sludge Bomb over Stone Edge, Talonflames will often have to respect it, and this trainer respects it enough to safe switch out of the matchup in a Diggersby, which is met with Furret. Keeping switch advantage not a must in this particular situation, as it's not like Shadow Mightyena is going to do poorly into Talonflame by any means, as long as it's not at a shield deficit. So Furret is going to be farming up here. Didn't get debuffed on the first, which is quite nice, as now these Sucker Punches are obviously doing quite a bit more damage. We are going to see a shield, and now Furret is able to reach the back-to-back Swifts. The opponent CMP tied to a Fire Punch here. Fire Punch is not going to be enough to knock out Furret. Diggersby, not a Pokemon known for its attack, and Furret is known for its bulk. Look at the survive by Furret, able to fire off a boosted Swift, and the opponent is actually going to invest both Protect Shields in this middle matchup to flip switch advantage. In comes the Cloudsire. Cloudsire going to look to farm up a ton of energy here, as Diggersby is going to connect with the Scorching Sands. Could honestly look to bank 100 energy here and then snipe down with the Mightyena, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Getting that Diggersby low, sniping with the Mightyena, and now in comes Talonflame. Opponent throwing on alignment here, as they just want to force the final shield. If they tried to throw in good timing, then Mightyena would be able to outpace. Mightyena over farming, going to play to the CMP tie against the Talonflame. Mightyena's easily going to win that. Poison Fang picks up the KO. In the back is Gastrodon, and let's see this Shadow Crunch. Shadow Crunch into the Gastrodon, big damage here. We're now going to see a switch and a combo play. All the stored energy on the Cloudsire. Shock and awe, down goes Gastrodon, and that's going to be a game 1 win. Moving into game number 2, Cloudsire into Shadow Jumpluff. This is an unbelievably good lead. Opponent safe switches into a Lapras, and look at Shadow Mightyena go. Shadow Mightyena, of course, being a pure Dark type, going to be double resisting these Psy Waves. Crunch lands, big damage to the incredibly bulky Lapras. Mightyena is going to respect the potential Skull Bash here. It's not going to be a Skull Bash, however. It is just going to be a Sparkling Aria. Sparkling Aria number 2, not going to be a problem. Mightyena going to be able to withstand that damage and get a farm down. In comes the Jumpluff, and Jumpluff is not going to appreciate the fact that Mightyena not only can debuff it, but can hit it for super effective damage with Poison Fang. Mightyena gets to another Poison Fang. The Jumpluff farm down fails. This Poison Fang forces a shield from the opponent, and Mightyena just did so well in the mid game. In the back is Claudire. That's going to be answered by Furret, and the opponent will immediately resign the match. There's a pretty scary Pokemon on the lead in the next match, and his name is Shadow Typhlosion. Shadow Typhlosion, one of the deadliest sweepers in the entire Great League. The good news is Cloudsire will be able to outpace here. Cloudsire Sludge Bomb gets no shielded, opponent making the call that it's not the Stone Edge Claude, and they are absolutely correct. Typhlosion, however, baits with a Thunder Punch, a huge misplay from the opponent, and now they're going to pivot out into Lapras. Lapras going to be met with a Sludge Bomb, and now in comes Furret. And for Furret, this simplifies the matchup so much, because typically Furret would have to go for a Trailblaze and then a Swift, and it would end up getting outpaced as it tried to make it to the boosted Swift. But now with the Sludge Bomb chip, it can just go for a Trailblaze and a farm down. So for Furret, this works out very nicely. In comes the Typhlosion. Typhlosion did have a Thunder Punch banked, and they're going to throw it here. That's not going to be enough to knock out. In the back, they have Jumpluff, and now Jumpluff is going to be met with a boosted Swift. The Swift is going to be no shielded, and now it's time. Shadow Mightyena hits the field. And Shadow Mightyena, these Sucker Punches are adding up its neutral damage, but it gets to ramp up that damage by lowering the opponent's defense with the Poison Fang. Mightyena firing off the Poison Fang opponent. They're just going to let it go and resign the match as they realize there's just no way to win that game. Cloudsire into a Shadow Jumpluff. Cloudsire picking up some pretty nice leads for this battler so far, but a Shadow Malamar safe switch is going to prove to be a bit of a tricky one. Cloudsire going to stay in and fire off this Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb no shielded by the opponent, and there's going to be the counter switch into Furret. Furret can survive a Shadow superpower here, but it does a ton of damage. There's the superpower. Oh no, clicking the Swift, but it ends up being a CMP tie. Malamar, of course, going to win that CMP tie, and now Furret is stuck firing off the Swift here. The Swift is going to be shielded. Malamar looking to Psywave down, and Malamar is able to win switch advantage. In comes the Cloudsire. Cloudsire hoping that an energy advantage will prove very helpful against whatever's in back, and it's going to be a Shadow Blastoise. Shadow Blastoise able to output incredible amounts of damage. Blastoise is farming up, and they're going to fire off this Hydro Cannon. The no shield from the Cloudsire, hoping Cloudsire can hang on here. Cloudsire does hang on and gets to the Sludge Bomb, and now the opponent is put in a difficult position. They are not going to invest in the Blastoise. They are holding out hope for Shadow Jumpluff to close out this game. In comes Shadow Mightyena. Mightyena is going to make it to the Poison Fang. Poison Fang shielded up by the opponent, and now this becomes a guessing game. Do they bait? Do they nuke? Kaya with the no shield. It's the aerial ace. Can they farm down? No, they cannot. And the Mightyena is going to take the win. What a no shield. Poison Fang KOs the Jumpluff, and that's a good game. We move to the next match. Cloudsire on the lead, staring down an Azumarill, and with Sludge Bomb on the Cloudsire, this is a pretty nice spot to be. Azumarill farming up energy here. Azumarill is going to wait a turn, attempt to catch onto a Corviknight. The Corviknight, unable to catch the Sludge Bomb, answered with the Shadow Mightyena. This team is very, very soft to a Corviknight, as even the Mightyena is not an amazing response. Like, Mightyena should be able to double shield and get the full Sucker Punch farm down here, I believe, but it still has to go down 2 shields to do so. It's going to be close here. Mightyena does get the farm down, exiting with a ton of energy. Already well over 100, just going to fire off the Poison Fang. Azumarill now has the Ice Beam. Mightyena not going to risk the opponent throwing on alignment, instead just going to fire off the Poison Fang back to back. Azumarill now incredibly low. Azumarill will be able to pick up the knockout here. Mightyena finally getting KO'd. The opponent still has 2 shields. In the back is going to be Claudire. And this is an interesting spot to be. The Claudire up 2 shields, but consistently taking super effective damage, and its Rock Tombs don't even reduce the Sucker Punch damage because Furret can just offset those with Trailblazes. Furret continuing the farm here, now going to fire off a Swift, as even a Swift landing would be catastrophic for the opponent. The Swift is going to be shielded. There's the switch into the Cloudsire. Cloudsire had the Earthquake banked, and a nice combo play KOs the Claudire. In comes Azumarill. There's just way too much Cloudsire health remaining, and the opponent will resign the match. Tough opponent in the next match, as it's not only a Shadow Typhlosion, but it's a Shadow Typhlosion run by Marto Galde. Cloudsire going to fire off the Sludge Bomb. The last Typhlosion disrespected the potential Stone Edge, and this one does as well. What a no-shield. But I bet Marto's not going to go for a Thunder Punch bait. There's the Blast Burn rocking Cloudsire. Opponent is going to save switch into a Shadow Swampert, answered with the Furret, but Shadow Hydro Cannons will inflict some serious damage here. Furret gets absolutely rocked. Furret going to build up to the Trailblaze, going for a Swift bait, assuming the opponent will have to shield no matter what, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Furret farming up, gonna get to the Trailblaze. It looks like the Swampert is just gonna try and commit to a full farm down. Trailblaze is gonna be shielded, and down goes Furret. This Swampert has so much energy here, could potentially try for a Peekaboo catch. Going to send in Mightyena, tried to catch, but got 1 turn bring in. Oh, that is heartbreaking. Read the perfect time to get the catch. Able to get the catch here, though. So at the very least, was still able to get a catch. But man, that is unfortunate. Nice undercharge there by Marto. Mightyena does not get the farm down. That undercharge letting Marto make 1 final move. And that means Mightyena is going to be shieldless for the remainder of this game. In comes Jumpluff. There's a catch attempt onto the Typhlosion. And now the back-to-back Poison Fangs are reached. Is this going to be enough damage? It is the non-Shadow Jumpluff. And because it's the non-Shadow Jumpluff, Marto's going to take the win here. Because the non-Shadow Jumpluff barely hangs on, surviving the double up on the Poison Fang. This is going to be the Acrobatics. Down goes Mightyena. And unfortunately, that game will end in defeat. Moving to the next match, looking for a bit of redemption, and that's the perfect lead. Cloudsire into Whimsicott. Opponent save switches into Lapras. Lapras going to be chipped with a Sludge Bomb, and then we should see a counter switch here into the Furret. My guess is trying to preserve the Mightyena, expecting that the Mightyena will be good and back, especially if the opponent is potentially running double Psywave. Furret respecting the Skull Bash, and they actually went for it. So Furret respecting the Skull Bash didn't pay off earlier, but pays off now. Trailblaze is going to land, and that's going to set up a nice farm down for the Furret. Opponent can bring back in the Whimsicott, but Whimsicott is going to take quite a lot of damage from the boosted Swifts. Whimsicott not known for its bulk, and it looks like with the Sucker Punches, another Swift would just cleanly knock out here. That's going to force the opponent's hand. They are forced to fire off energy. Moonblast KOs the Furret. Back in comes the Cloudsire, and that was a great wait there. Brought in the Cloudsire, didn't actually throw a fast move, instead just paused, saw the switch, and can immediately bring in Mightyena to just absolutely destroy this Claydol. Claydol now going to be hit with a Poison Fang. They're going to let it go, just understanding that there's just not a way that they can win this game, as Mightyena will now get to apply a permanent debuff to this Whimsicott. Whimsicott is just never clutching this ever. Whimsicott is going to get a farm down, but their energy isn't going to do anything into the Cloudsire. Each Poison Sting, double super effective, and they're debuffed as well. Poison Sting has never looked so deadly. And for that opponent, unfortunately, there just wasn't ever really a chance for them in that game. Moving into the next match, Cloudsire absolutely feasting on all these grass leads. Opponent safe switches into Claydol, and we will see a counter swap by the Furret. Furret going to invest a Protect Shield here on the Rock Tomb, because if the Rock Tomb is no shielded, Claydol can potentially double shield and farm down and force swap. Trailblaze is going to land. This could potentially set up a farm down here, opting to fire off the Swift. I believe that Furret could have actually gotten that farm down there. Swift is going to pick up the knockout, and unfortunately, I mean, switch advantage was kept, but not exiting with energy here does make the situation slightly less advantageous. We will see the Jumpluff firing off an Aerial Ace. Shadow Aerial Ace will not knock out Furret, and Furret is going to get to fire off one final move. It is going to be the +1 Swift, doing some solid damage, and it's all going to be up to Mightyena to try and sweep in the back. In the back is going to be Shadow Marowak, and this is a bit tough. Shadow Marowak up a shield and up energy. We will see the shield come out from Mightyena, and Mightyena is now going to be firing off the Poison Fang. Opponent's going to be shielding anyway, so you may as well go for the guaranteed defense drop. There's another move coming through from the Marowak, and this is just game over, unfortunately. There's just not a way for Cloudsire to pull off the win. If I had to think back here, it really felt like a pivotal moment in the match was that decision to fire off the Swift instead of committing to the farm down. If having a second boosted Swift could have forced a shield from the opponent's Jumpluff in the one shield, suddenly this is a lot more manageable of an endgame instead of being down a shield. So I think that's probably the only thing that maybe could have been done slightly differently, as in comes the Jumpluff, and Jumpluff will be able to secure the win. Cloudsire staring down a Corviknight in the next match. This team is so weak to Corviknight. This is going to be a really tough battle. Cloudsire overloading on energy, going to need to pivot out of here and save the energy, and there's going to be the switch into Furret. Furret basically just a full sacrifice in this game. Opponent actually running payback on the Corviknight, so a pretty interesting moveset choice there. But the hope is, you know, the Cloudsire energy is useless into the Corviknight. So the hope is that you can save the 100 Cloudsire energy and it'll be more useful in the end game and employ an overload strategy where you are throwing away the Furret and you're going to have to give up a shield on Shadow Mightyena, but that when they eventually have to reveal those back Pokemon, that Cloudsire will be able to put in work. In comes the Mightyena, but the energy advantage on this Corviknight already able to threaten with an Iron Head. There's going to be a switch, as now we will see Shadow Quagsire hit the field. A bait from the Shadow Mightyena, baiting here with the Poison Fang, getting a shield, and now here's the combo play, firing off the Earthquake at the Quagsire. Earthquake is going to land, down goes Quagsire, and just like that, this battle may have completely flipped on its head. That Poison Fang bait getting the shield, opponent now suddenly in a position where Corviknight looks like it can lose to Cloudsire. Cloudsire Sludge Bomb will be able to pick up the knockout here. Opponent just going to let it go. In the back, they have Feraligatr, and it is going to be the non-Shadow Feraligatr. And you just save the shield from Mightyena, and Mightyena cannot lose. Cloudsire doesn't even get knocked out there. Cloudsire able to hang on. Sludge Bomb going to do meaningful damage, and now in comes Mightyena, and Mightyena just way too much fast move pressure, and somehow against all odds able to claw back from a nightmare lead scenario and take the win. Hopping to the final match, great lead and switch scenario here, leading once again into Jumpluff. Safe switch for Alligator, answered by the Furret. Furret gonna take the Hydro Cannon. Oh, it looks like actually CMP-Tide on a Swift. That is a bit of a misplay here, as if you go for the Trailblaze, the Feraligatr cannot make a second move, whereas Feraligatr now, because the Swift was clicked, will be able to get there. So Furret unfortunately has to go down a shield in the mid game. We'll exit with some energy here for the Jump Pluff, but unfortunately this is not boosted energy, which means Swift not particularly threatening to the non-Shadow Jump Pluff. But either way, Furret's still going to do what it can, trying to just continually chip away at the Jump Pluff, get it lower and lower and lower. Opponent decides they do not want to take any more Swifts from the Furret. They will fire off the Aerial Ace. Aerial Ace will pick up the knockout, and this endgame will be Mightyena down a shield. It's going to be the Claydol, and that's something Mightyena can handle just fine. Mightyena will commit the shield. Mightyena going to be debuffed here with the Rock Tomb, but you can basically undo that by lowering their defense with the Poison Fang. So now Mightyena gets to fire off the Poison Fang. There's the shield from the Claydol. Claydol, it's getting farmed all the way down. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. All in all, big congratulations to this trainer, making it up to top 70 in the world with a pretty fun spice pick like Shadow Mightyena. As I mentioned at the start, Shadow Mightyena, it's not a Pokemon that I would necessarily call like a must-have or a climbing Pokemon, but I think it just goes to show that good players are able to support a more fun pick that they're wanting to use with strong meta options and find a team that can really play to its strengths. In this instance, the main things that are really giving Cloudsire grief in this meta, it really feels like a lot of the time it's Psywave users like Lapras or Malamar and Claydol, a lot of which are very weak to Sucker Punch. So making the choice to run something very anti-meta in Shadow Mightyena actually ends up paying off. And that's purely just based on the fact that it does have some solid targets in the meta. And I think when you're looking to run something anti-meta, making sure that it's going to have some meta Pokemon that it's going to really give some trouble to is a really good place to start. Because running anti-meta Pokemon is something I very much enjoy doing. I try and oftentimes in most of my teams have at least one Pokemon that's at least somewhat uncommon, with an exception of the team I'm currently running. But overall, I like going outside the box, trying to find something interesting, whether it's the expert with the Master League Terrakion or just other teams like that. But one of the things that's very important for me is I always try and figure out what meta core or like very common meta team can I break with this potential spice pick, because if you can find something that can break something that a lot of meta teams are using, then I think you're well on the way to having an anti-meta pick that can have success like Shadow Mightyena did for Queen Kaya. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy the content, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is genuinely so appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.